Good morning, Trish. Good to be here.
Good to be here. Okay, you guys got a little cappuccino, a little frappuccino. What's going on over there?
Yep,
We are just
Blake is
about to
setting us
grab
up right
one.
now with
That's
that.
right.
Okay, well, let's talk real estate, guys.
That's right. So I've got Scott here with LIV Sothebys. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us, there's been so much chatter, so much discussion about the hot real estate market. Tell us what's going on here in the Valley.
Yeah, it's hot. It's a bit wonky and it's a bit imbalanced, but everyone knows it at this juncture. Um, the things everyone's been reading about, I can tell you they're true, which is the low supply and the high demand. Um, um, Really, no one could have predicted that there was going to be such a hold on listings right now. But the pandemic push is real. Um, that happened to this town. So really, over the last 12, 18 months, I think we've seen a lot of people just say, "I'm owning my house. I'm going to use it. I'm going to live in it. I've got a different mindset about where I can work, where I can play." So those people who own property here have said, I'm holding on to it. That's part of a seller's or owner's mindset and not selling. So we're not going to see, the big question is what's going to happen this year. That's the most number one question that most brokers get, including me. It's what's going to happen. Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but I have a good guess. And a lot of us are guessing that it's going to be a low inventory year. We typically see properties come online. The normal flow is you put your property on the market at the end of ski season because that's when you'll stop skiing. So that will happen, but I think it's going to happen in lesser numbers. So the demand for those properties, I think, will remain imbalanced. You're going to find still favor to the seller, and that means buyers have to be really diligent and prepared and educated in order to buy right this year. And that's the key thing, really. I wouldn't discourage people from buying in this market. You just have to do it wisely, and to succeed in it, you really have to prepare. You have to know what you're looking for, and that part of all that is learning the market, learning the neighborhood in which you want to make a purchase. That's the short story.
And you bring up such a good point with the shift. With the last 2 years, people are working remote. A lot of kids are doing virtual school. So we had so many people shift from the cities that realized they could live and work here instead of just vacationing here
Yeah.
once or twice a year.
I, like everybody else, I would read about it too, and then the next day my phone would ring, and I'm talking to clients and friends and prospective clients in those shoes, and they want to, they're making full time use of their part time home. So rather than just skiing, they've moved here to their Beaver Creek home or their Vail Valley home, and they're living in it for weeks or months at a time. So that changes, and then the people coming in have transitioned from the city
Right.
and brought their laptop and say, "I'm working out of Edwards." So it's real, and it has happened, and that's the backstory as to why things won't flow to the marketplace like they usually do.
So with all those factors in mind, seeing that shift and with supply being so tight right now, what's your advice for the buyer and the seller?
Um, uh, Sellers have to be strategic. Um, in a seller's market, you could might whimsically think, I could sell it for anything. I could sell it at top dollar. I could sell it when I want and how I want. Well, some of that is true, but you have to be still strategic and smart on the price because you have to have a factor of value, and it's easy to appraise, right? There have been a lot of transactions, so it's easy to appraise and look at each neighborhood and go, okay, it's worth X. Well, and the seller says, well, yeah, but it's seller's market. Okay, it's worth X. What's your speculative value? And there's another analysis there, meaning if you want to want top dollar, and you want to get what the market will bear, well, then you can do some numbers crunch and say, look, it's reasonable to think I can sell this for 5% over appraisal value, maybe 10%. So you have to do that forecasting. And if you get too aggressive, it doesn't work. And we've seen that too. We've seen in the last couple of months some listings come out with prices that are too aggressive. Well, that doesn't work. So there's a balance to find that takes research. And buying is similar in that the buyer has to be well versed in what they want. You can't just run around, shooting a rifle around. If you snipe carefully and know what you want, then you know what you're willing to pay for what you want, and that will involve paying 5% over appraised value. It would be foolish advice to say, no, you'll get a deal on that. It's not going to happen. That won't happen until we find more inventory, until there's more competition for sellers. So it's okay to buy with a long-term goal. Like, you're not going to sell it next year, just in case. If you want to buy something, hold on to it for 4 or 5 years. That's safe. At least we think so. So that's the short story on buying and selling wisdoms.
Great advice, and such a smart way to do your homework, take a targeted approach. And speaking of inventory, you have some exciting new inventory that's just hit the MLS last night.
Yeah, it's not my personal inventory. My brokerage just came out with the listing of a new building that's going up in Avon. Locals and maybe drivers by have seen a hole in the ground on Route 6 just to the east of Beaver Creek entrance. That has been in the works for many years and it's now come to fruition. So just last night, the listing team put 20 units up for sale at the new building called Front Gate Avon. And LIV Sothebys has a listing. The listing team is Matt Blake and John Michael Lyles. And they will be marketing 84 units, 84 condominiums, about 75 condominiums, about 9 townhomes on that site starting today as it just came into the market. And it's a fantastic product with 2 bedrooms that have dens and can facilitate people who want to work out of the house. It's a wonderful building. You can call me or Google it online to find more information for now.
Great. As you mentioned, such a great location right at the welcome gates, yeah. Beaver Creek, right on Highway 6. And one more question for you. I hear we have a little bit, you've been in the Valley for quite some time. You know the market so well. And I understand we have some interesting local trivia that you and Trisha might have named one of our favorite local restaurants.
Does Trish like to tell everybody how long she's been around? Because she doesn't like it.
Stories.
Yeah, I hear you giggling. Yeah, no, Trish, older than she looks.
Definitely. So the word on the streets is that you two may have come up with a name for, again, one of our favorite happy hour spots, E-Town. Is there some truth to this? I think we need the backstory here.
I recall, and Trish might remember, but Trish and I did a TVA interview from the Riverwalk Village years ago. Must have been 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah.
And in that interview, I think, this is how I remember it, Trish, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you probably don't remember a damn thing, but we referred to where we were standing, and one of us said Edwards, and then the other one said, yeah, here we are in E-Town.
Yes, I know. Well, you know what?
Right?
I mean, you know me, Scott. I give nicknames to everything. I have acronyms for anything. And before there was an E-Town, we'd be like, hey, well, you're gonna come down, even if you're just going to the brewery, like, hey, well, come on down to E-Town and we'll go to the brewery. I mean, so we did, and then I don't know if you remember this,
we were
Scott.
standing next to the brewery, actually.
Yes, we were standing right there. But
So-
do you remember what we would call, Homestead? So where the brewery was, and now it's going to be changing hands.
Same conversation.
Okay, that was Low Ho, and then where the Homestead Court Club is, that was Mid Ho, and then above
Me-ho.
that was High Ho. And if you lived way up on Gold Dust Drive, that was Heidi Ho. Do you remember that? When we would name our neighborhoods?
That was the conversation.
That's what we were doing.
And we got, there was a lot of recognition for that. And what happened about 2 or 3 days later, Brad Dippy, one of the partners at E-Town at that time,
Yes.
he called me up a few days later and said, Scott, what did you refer to Edwards as the other day on TVA? And I'm like, you mean E-Town? He's like, yeah, that's it. And that was the phone call. That's why they named E-Town E-Town.
We should get
So
free
I think we collaborated.
we should get free sandwiches every time we go in there.
Free nothing from that place. Free kick in the butt, actually, if you get away from the bars.
I know. Our faces should be on the sign. Our little heads.
Yeah. We are E-Town.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for the insight. Good advice on what's going on with this crazy market and everything. And and really great information on that front gate, which just, that just came on the market.
Just released. Yeah.
Okay.
Call me or call the listing brokers, but it's a great new development.
Yeah, and Scott also gives good dating advice. I met my husband
Right.
A whole nother
right after talking to
Going
Scott.
Valentine's Day, perfect.
Yeah, he's good with.
He's not wrong. Bike wisdom, biking, dating, yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, we got to get back to the business here. We got to get to some